Well, happy Wednesday, and never mind just Wednesday. Happy March 1st.
I
Wow.
can't even believe we're already into March. I mean, isn't that crazy? We just had New Year's and it goes faster and faster every single day. It's making
Now,
me a little bit nervous, I'll tell you.
I'm in Canada. That means spring is coming. And when spring's coming, that means my energy is starting to go way out of there. And I'm excited because I love spring. And more importantly, I love summer. But most importantly, my best day of my week is Wednesdays. And I love being here. So I just want to thank everybody for showing up today. And we got a great show today. And, you know, what I'm really excited about today is the show is myself of being a reinvention success coach and helping people in their 50s and beyond to reinvent themselves, because we both have done that, Nicole and I. And, you know, it is so much because it excites me because, first of all, one thing that I hate hearing is when people tell me that they're too old. And it's like, wow, you're in the wrong mindset. And for me, it's like, too old? I'm just setting myself up to go. So I don't get that part. And today's guest is spectacular. And the funniest thing is she reinvented herself in her 50s too. So wow, we are all connecting up here. So Nicole, tell everybody what's happening today.
Oh my goodness. It was 77 here in South Carolina yesterday. And I just went to walk across the street to the beach. Lynda, there were people everywhere, which was exciting, but I've been used to having the beach to myself. So it was like, oh, who are these people? This is kind of my beach. But it's very exciting. That means spring is coming. That means summer's coming. That means the warm weather. And it gives me energy too. It's been really like cold and foggy and gray here. And coming from Arizona to South Carolina, it was a little bit of a shock. You know, Arizona's sunshine all year round. And here it was a couple of like 2 depressing months. So, you know, I, like you, look forward to my Wednesdays where I can get the cheer of, you know, people and the excitement. So, you know, I love this, and I can't wait to tell you about our guest today. She's something else. I was just saying that, you know, there's a short bio which blows my mind. I read this about her, and this lady is a book publisher. She's a speaker. She's a 19 times #1 international best-selling author, executive film producer of Wishman, red carpet founder and CEO of Action Takers Publishing. And some of her celebrity interviews that she's done the former president of Mexico, Vicente Fox, Jack Canfield, John Lee Dumas, Les Brown, Randy Jackson, Sharon Lecter, and Wesley Snipes. How impressive is that? Yeah, it's going to be such a fun interview. I've been in some clubhouse rooms with her, and her energy is amazing. I know why she's got that sunshine right in the middle of her name. She's really amazing. And let's welcome Lynda Sunshine West.
Yay. Hello. I got to give you a warning before we get started that I'm not sure, but I may at some point just break out into song randomly. Okay, I'm just going to put it out there so you know it might happen.
You know what? I'm going to expect that to happen. So okay. I'm going to be waiting for it.
Is that the intention?
That'll brighten up our day. So, you know, I'm going over this, and there's a lot to cover today. But the thing that intrigues me and I want to hear about is Lynda ran away from home when she was 5 years old. And I remember when my youngest daughter was about 5 or 6, and she told me, she says, you know, Mom, I'm going to go live with Grandma for a while. Well, you know, it was my mom. So you're not really worried because you kind of know your mom, but it kind of took me back. But you didn't go to your grandma's. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I didn't even really know my grandparents, so that wasn't an option for me. I ran away, gone for a whole week. I was only at the neighbor's house, so I was safe. However, what was interesting is I didn't realize this until much later in life, is something happened during that week, and that got locked really deep within my soul and my heart and my belief system, and nobody came to get me. So imagine you're 5 years old and nobody comes to get you. The thoughts that go through your mind. Well, my belief was that they didn't come to get me because they didn't love me and they didn't want me around.
Oh, wow.
My mom did know where I was, but I didn't know she knew where I was. So it's kind of interesting because my mom, the way my mom was, I truly believe that she was just allowing me to exercise my, my sense of independence. But she didn't know what was happening at that time as that belief system was locked in tight. So I walked around until I was 51 with this belief that they didn't love me, they didn't want me around. And that really was like the catalyst to my relationships, many, many relationships to come. And when I did come home, I became riddled with fears and I became an amazing, amazing people pleaser, like many people I know,
Yes.
Wow.
We just talked about that the other day, and yes, it's one of the unfortunate, saddest characteristics to have,
Yeah.
because we're too busy looking and doing for everybody else that we don't look for ourselves, and it's just everything else adds on top of that. So, at what point in your life did the writing come in, when you were able to start getting these stories because of what went on through the years, that something started coming out of you?
Yeah, it was actually age 51 is when I started kind of asking myself this question, like, why am I here on this planet? I have no value. I have no purpose. There's no reason for me to be around. My dad was very volatilistically abusive. This is why I ran away. My first husband was, you married someone just like your dad. This is the saying, right? And I did. I married somebody who was just like my dad, my first marriage. And on a daily basis, my ex-husband would tell me, like, you're so stupid. You're so ignorant. People are only nice to you because they feel sorry for you. And I already had those beliefs, starting as a child, and then just carried on into that person that I'm supposed to trust, right? This human being. And so because I believed all these things about myself, I was very much in the shadows, in the dark. I didn't ever say anything to people because I was too scared or embarrassed that they might judge me. And there were so many fears that were stopping me. So at 51, when I was driving to work after 36 years in the corporate world and my 49th job, yes, I had 49 jobs.
And I had a lot.
Why am I here?
Yeah.
I have no purpose. No, all I do is push papers around. I was working for a judge in the Court of Appeals, which was a prestigious job in my type of work. I was a legal secretary, but hated it. Oh my gosh. It was just so not me,
Yeah.
So anyway, that day I got to work and there was a Facebook post from a woman. It was a life coach, said, I took some time off. I'm getting back into it and I'm looking for 5 women who want to change their lives. And that was the moment that I raised my hand and said, this is worth exploring to see if I have something of value, and that was the catalyst. So as far as the writing aspect, I was never a writer. I was never a reader, never interested in either of those. Wow. And I even walked around saying for years, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. Like those were my words. And so when I had the opportunity after working with my life coach, I had an opportunity to be in a collaboration book. And that was the start of me actually putting my words out there in a book format, not just social media. And I was terrified. People are going to see my words. They're going to see my name in print. Like, this is official. It's a book, but I did it. And I'm so glad I did, because that was the start to everything that I'm doing today.
Wow.
And what was that that was like a chapter in a book, right? So
yes.
How much of that part of your life did you divulge?
Well, that particular book was written as a parable. It's called Footsteps of the Fearless. It is in 2015 that I joined that book. And in 2015, I decided to break through one fear every single day that year, because I knew that fear was stopping me from living my life. And so that book entered my life about 45 days into breaking through a fear every day. So that book is a parable. It's a story that, like, I enter this other person's life. And so it's not really my life that's in it, but it was still scary for me having my words on print. But after that year was over, so I broke through 365 days in a row, breaking through fears. And my mentor looked at me and he said, you need to write a book about this. So I did. I wrote a book called The Year of Fears. Now that was where I divulged my life. And, I didn't have any fear over that because I had already broken through fears for 365 days in a row. I had already worked with my life coach. I had already gone through all these transformations. And I was like, you know what? Here I go. I'm going to just share it all, So I didn't have any fear over that. But the first time when I started sharing my story I was choked up. I cried a lot, and I've worked through all of that stuff. So that's not showing up anymore.
So did you make a list for yourself of 365 things, or did you wake up today and say, I'm kind of afraid of this. I'm going to tackle this one today. 365, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It is. Like, how did I even know I had 365 fears,
Yeah, really.
Well, that's a great question. People ask me that one all the time, and I'm going into a coughing fit. So bear with me a second here. And then I spilled on myself.
That's okay. Okay.
I did not make a list. My plan was this: every day when I wake up, before I get out of bed, I will ask myself one simple question: what scares me? And then I'll lay in bed and I will wait until the very first fear pops into my head. And I'm committed to breaking through that fear that day.
And what did you do to break through that fear? Was it just talking about it? What happened? Give us some examples.
It depended on the fear, of course, examples of fears that came up for me. Oh man, it's getting me good.
You want to take a minute because
you guys can talk without me.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah, because I was gonna tell Lynda, one of the things that she talks about is she had that fear when she was 5 years old that her mother didn't love her or her parents didn't care about her. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, is that something gets stuck in our subconscious like that from the age of 5. We don't remember it. It's just buried in there. So think about her going her whole life and probably never knowing, where is that fear rational? Is it irrational? Where did it come from? Why do I feel this way?
Right.
Why do I keep going for men like this? Why do I have these patterns? And that's some of the things that, you and I work on with our clients, right, to help them find out the why of their behavior. And she's a great example, 5 years old.
And it's so true, because many of us have had things that have happened throughout our lives, but especially, you think of it at the age of, in your 50s, you're now starting to looking at reinventing, and then you go and you sit back. Like what I do is, as I coach people, is I bring them back to things, and we start it's like taking the onion peels off one by one and finding out where it all started from. And it always comes back to when you were a kid, things that happened, and they were things that actually it's like your foundation is crumbled at that point. Mm-hmm. And then you've built your life on a crumbled foundation. So it's at that point having to restart again.
Yeah, and solidify that foundation. So you have to go back and get rid of that somehow, whether it's through, mirror work or dark night of the soul. And it's not always easy reinventing ourselves. I think all three of us would admit that. So kudos to you.
Yeah. So I love all that you shared. And, these are things I didn't even know until much later, after working with a life coach, somebody that could help me dive into the why do I do this or that, whatever. Now, not all of us need to know the why in order to make transformation. But for me, it works tremendously well, because when I can discover what the why is, and I get, that explains everything. And then I can just move forward. So you asked about the fears. So what I recognized is that the vast majority of my fears, and this was about 3 months into it, I looked back and I asked myself, for 3 months, I've been breaking through fears every single day. What's the common theme here? There's got to be something that's more common than not, right? And so I recognized that it was the fear of judgment. Mm-hmm. What was cool about this is that having that awareness, excuse me, I have awareness now. I have awareness. How now, brown cow, I have awareness. I have awareness now. It's time for me to move on like Donkey Kong.
Wow.
I'm seeing another addition to your bio. I'm feeling it.
Yeah,
I love it. Your great voice.
I know.
Thank you. You know, I was doing a Facebook Live one day, and just suddenly I said, well, I said something. I just said something about I was on a Facebook Live, and I said something about the word awareness, and I just started singing that out of nowhere. It was so funny. And the people are like, oh my God, I love your awareness song. I have even my husband, I hear him like singing it in the background sometimes, you know, or, but the next day, here's what's cool. So I sang that song just randomly. And this woman reached out to me the next day. She said, I just watched your video and your song. Oh my God, I'm totally in. I'm going to be in one of your books. So she signed up to be in one of my books that day. So that was really cool.
I love it. So when you're talking about signing up to be in one of your books, what type of books are you writing? And like you've got 19 bestsellers, like, whoa. And we will talk about that in a few minutes of how you get to become a bestseller, because you must have some magic tricks up your sleeve. and I know I want to so many questions, because I know so many people that are really interested in learning how to write a book and the best way. So let's go back a second, because I know there's too much coming out of my mouth.
We're gonna get every little nugget out of her we can, Lynda.
I'm in for it.
What type of books are you writing? There's 19 bestsellers. Now, does that mean that there's more than 19 books, or every book that you've written is a bestseller?
Every book that I have written and or been part of is a #1 international best-selling book. So I participate in other people's collaboration books. Like that example, my mentor was putting together a collaboration book. I jumped into that one. So that's one of those that adds to my numbers, you know. And then I have my own book, The Year of Fears. And then I started, you know, compiling my own collaboration books, bringing people into our books. And, you know, they range from the first one was called Momentum, 13 Lessons from Action Takers Who Change the World. And I'm just going to share this really quick here, because it's interesting as we're growing through life and we're having these changes that are happening. At 51, again, I started my journey of transformation. I was in that collaboration book. At the end of that year of Breaking Through Fears, my mentor said, you should write a book. And so I did. And I wrote that book. It took me 1.5 years to get that book done, because I was a starter, not a finisher. I had to learn how to finish the book. And so I ended up finding a book coach who taught me how to finish the book. And then I sat down and I wrote the book in a week from that moment. And then I published that book. And then here's what was cool. I think this was an instrumental piece in this whole puzzle that I've, been creating, putting together here, is that I was attending an event about 3 months after I published The Year of Fears. And this woman walks up to me and said, I got your book, The Year of Fears. I read the first 14 pages and I've already broken through 5 fears.
Wow.
If I hadn't met that woman, the next step probably wouldn't have happened. Wow. And so I looked at it and I said, I was in a book. I wrote a book. What's my next natural state of progression? This is a question I ask myself frequently. And so I was like, I'm going to put together my own collaboration books. And that was like the idea just came to me. So then I had this title popped into my head, Momentum. And then I said to myself, I met these absolutely incredible people on my journey. I'm going to reach out to them. So I reached out to the founder of UGG Boots, who happened to be somebody I've met on the journey, the creator of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Wow. So when I met on this journey, the inventor of the credit card magnetic strip that we all use today. And I just reached out to him and said, I'm thinking of writing this book. Will you be part of it? They all said yes. And I was like, oh crap, I got to put together the book.
Now what?
Yeah, exactly. But my point here is that I had a question and I went out and searched and I found the answers. And in my past, by them saying yes, it actually would have put on the brakes for me, because I would have had fear about putting that out there. But now I had morphed into a completely different person, this person who takes action, this person who moves forward, this person who looks at this as a challenge to do something different, to change my life, to do more of what I'm here to do, And so that was really the start of it, that book. So I'm actually now a 22 times #1 international best-selling author. And how that happens is I believe in collaboration so much that I join other people's collaboration books. I put them together myself. And then I also help people to publish their own book. So there's like a whole long story that goes to that. And that's the shortened version, but it's all about like opening the mind and saying, what more is there out there for me? What more can I do while I'm here? We're not dead. 51 is when my life started. I'm a 9-year-old. I'm just starting.
Well, I said that exactly too,
I
like,
feel the same way.
right. I believe, that, 60 is the new 40. So I'm
30.
I was going to say 35 minimum. Yeah. No.
Like the age has no limit to it,
Yeah.
Like I myself, I have so much energy. I can go and it's like the ever ready battery. So it's not, and I love creating. So the whole idea is, seeing this happening, what you're doing, it's like a long match that's burning, and all of a sudden it sparks up, and each spark is another book that comes out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I have over 70 book titles that have come to me, and they're just sitting there waiting, for us to move on those. And I believe God sends me these titles, and I just write them down, and I just pick one at a time, and we go through them. And right now we have, I think, 5 different books that we're working on, opportunities for people, if they wanted to share their story, to get their story out there into the world. And that's what it's all about for me, is those stories.
true.
And you never know who you'll meet. You never know who you'll touch. You think your story, oh, well, it's common, or no one really pays attention. There's a lot of people that are watching.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are watching. So I agree with you. If someone has a story, contact Lynda and tell it. I can't imagine anyone more fun to work with than you.
Thank you.
So what is the practice, or, if somebody has a story in them, and they approach you, can you go through some of the steps of what goes on and how someone begin to write a book?
Yeah, one of the things, first of all, I want to start with, there's traditional publishing, there's hybrid publishing, there's self-publishing, right? Traditional is where you go to a house, you send them a letter. It's called a query letter. You apply basically to have your book seen by somebody so that they'll look at it and they'll say, okay, good. This is the book we want to, bring you under our wings. You can make money from doing that. And also there's ways that you can hire them, or you pay them, in order to publish your book as well. And then there's the hybrid publisher, or there's the self-publisher. Self-publishing. This is the person who says, I have a story. I want to share this story with the world, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to figure out how to do it. And I'm going to Google everything, and I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to publish my own book. And then there's the in-betweeners. That's the hybrid. That's what we are. We're the hybrids where we come in and we say, okay, what do you need done? And we can do that for you. But for example, a lot of people want to write their own story, but they don't want to, do the proofreading, or they don't want to find a proofreader. So we'll do that for them. We create their marketing materials. We do the actual publishing. So we do everything. There are other people who say, I don't want to write it because I don't know how to write. And so they'll hire a ghostwriter. So we have those as well. The process that I go through when I hop on a call with somebody who is writing their own book. So there's a difference. You're writing your own book where it's just you. And then the collaboration piece is different. That's where we invite people to share just one story, kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul. They were all short stories, right? So there's 2 different aspects. So we'll look at it from the aspect of the solo person who's sitting there thinking, or everybody keeps telling you, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And you're like, I don't want to write a book. I'm not ready to write a book, right? Just hop on a call and find out how this might be able to help you with your own life as well as your business, and also help people, those readers. So one of the first questions I ask people is, what do you want to do with the book? Like, what's the purpose of the book? And this will determine what route I recommend that they take, because some people are like, well, everybody tells me I need to write a book. For me, as a publisher, that's not a good enough reason for you to write a book just because everybody's telling you you need to, because you need to love what you're doing. You need to, the energy is going to be in there. Like, your energy is in that book. So that goes out to, the energy goes out to the world. And so, quantum energy healer, right? We're talking about energy here, but that energy is really important. So what is it that you want from the book? I want to change people's lives. I really want them to see that they can do this, that they got this, right? A lot of it is through wanting transformation for other people. We do work with nonfiction, we do not do fiction. So this is a lot of the people that we work with. They want to effect change. And I say, that is awesome. Now, the next step is, what do you want from the book? Do you want to get on stages? Do you want to be on interviews? Do you want to use it as a group program? Do you want to use it to move people into one-on-one coaching? What do you want from the book? And I say this
matter. Yeah.
And yeah, this is an important piece, because unless you're J.K. Rowling or Stephen King, you're probably not going to sell millions of books. Now, you may, it happens, but you may not. Most likely you won't. So what are you going to do with the book? How are you going to use it as a marketing tool? Which the vast, vast majority of books out there are used as marketing tools. So thinking along that lines, now you're like, okay, cool. Now I can figure out, what I'm going to do with it and how I'm going to use it as a marketing tool. That's when we now move forward. So those are the first questions I ask people to find out, is this really the route they should take? And I'll give a great example. I was talking to a gentleman, and everybody was telling him, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And so I got on a call with him, and I said, well, what would your book be about? And he said, well, it's because he's in like the construction industry. And he said, I really just want to put together something so that I can give it to my clients so that, they can understand a little bit more about my story and this and that. I'm just going to give it away. And then I said, you know what, you can just do a PDF. You don't have to do a whole book, because it's going to cost you to put together a book. So he can just do like an ebook, or he can put together a PDF and just print it out and give it to them. There's so many different routes he could take. He doesn't have to hire a publisher to do that. So I saved him quite a bit of money that day.
So, yeah, that is very true. And it actually is a great idea when people are looking, especially as Nicole and I know as coaches, and that we constantly make our own ebooks to give out people. So they're little tidbits of information that will help them move forward.
Yeah. I have enjoyed writing, though, in the collaborative book. It becomes a really tight community too. It seems like, when you're doing it for the most part, and it has been effective to give it out, like you said, to give it to people. It helps them understand my perspective on things. So that's what I really liked about it. I thought that was really fun to have it. There's just something really cool about having it tangible, that you feel and you see your name. That, for me, I think that was one of those things that on this journey, this was something I never thought I would be able to do. And it just helped me realize that, we can do this at any age. So.
Yeah, definitely. And that collaborative space too, like you mentioned, the community that's created, not all collaborative books are created equally. I'll say that. But one thing that we've really tapped into is when I was working with my life coach, she did this test on me to find out what my essence, what is my core essence as a human being. And one of those words was community. I'm a community builder. I love building community. So what we do is we have each book has its own ecosystem. Each book is themed. And so because it's themed, we have one coming up called Women with Healing Gifts, right? So all of these women have healing gifts. They're sharing their stories. So now they're meeting each other, getting to know each other. But then we actually go out from that too. And we invite the authors from all of our books to get to know each other as well. So I'm building a larger and larger community as we go. And for me, I don't know, nothing could be even more fun than that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And I would love to meet and or talk to some with the healing gifts. We talked about that.
Definitely.
That would be amazing. And so with doing the books, I'm also seeing you do celebrity interviews. So was that before, after, during? How did that come to be, Lynda?
That's been during the whole journey. And that was actually kind of, I don't want to say accident, but it was not anything I ever imagined. Because, I spent so many years of my life, that fear of judgment stopped me from doing things. So when I would see red carpet interviewers, I would look at that and say, wow, that's awesome. And that's as far as it would go. I never thought that I would do the same kind of thing. And I was working for my mentor. So I volunteered for him for 2 years because I wanted to be seeing what he's doing and really be able to follow in his footsteps. And so I was volunteering for him, and he was going to be speaking at an Academy Awards after party event. And because I was working for him, I got to go to all of these events that he was involved in. And I knew that there was going to be red carpet interviews that night, and something came over me, and I just reached out to him. I said, "Do you think they'd let me do the interviews on the red carpet? Do you think they'd let me?" And he's like, "That's a silly question." This is how he speaks to me. "That's a silly question. Just go ask them. Like, why are you asking me?" Like that, And because I had their number because he was involved with them. And so I just picked up the phone and I called. Her name was Michelle. And I said, "Hey, Michelle, can I interview stars on the red carpet?" And she goes, "Yeah, I'll just put your name on the list," like that. And I'm like, "What?" That's all it took.
And when they said yes, what was your reaction?
It was like, "Yeah, that's all it took." Oh, yeah, that was literally, I was shocked. And I was going to use my cell phone. I was going to use a selfie. And then the fear of judgment started seeping in, and the imposter syndrome started showing up. And I said, "Wait a minute, I'm going to be on this red carpet, and I'm going to be with a cell phone, and there's going to be all these other people with their big fancy cameras and all this stuff," right? Because I've seen pictures of the red carpet. Yeah. And I said, "Greg, my mentor, do you think they'd let me bring my videographer with me like that?" And he goes, "Are you kidding me? Just tell them you're going to bring your videographer. Don't ask them, just tell them." And so I said, "Oh, I'm going to have my videographer. Here's his name, put him on the list," like that. And they're like, "Okay." And so my point here is that oftentimes what we want is so simple to get if we'll just ask. So I showed up on the red carpet, and there I was. The first interview was a little nerve-wracking. The second interview was a little bit nervous. By the third interview, I was like, "I expect to be on the red carpet from this point forward."
I got this.
Total mindset shift. Total. Yeah. And so I do. Now I just like, "Hey, put me on the carpet. I'm going to be, I'm in the media. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. But I expect it to happen."
And that's the good old manifesting part too. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
As expected.
As expected.
As expected.
Yes, exactly.
So this was all intermingled. So between your writing and going now on the red carpet, and you've got some really great mentors there from what I see.
Yeah, well, that is after I worked with my life coach. So this was actually an interesting story because this would not have happened had it not been for her. I worked with my life coach for 5 months. And then in January 2015, when I was breaking through those fears every day, she heard about a vision board seminar that was happening. And it was about January 15th, beginning of the year, vision board seminars, right?
Yep.
And she said, "Hey, go to this vision board seminar with me." I'm like, "Okay," because my life coach says I should do it because she believes in me and she knows more about me than I know about me at this point, right? Yeah. And so we show up at this vision board seminar, and I ended up sitting in the front row right next to her. There were speakers. This gentleman, Greg Reed, he was the keynote speaker. And as he was speaking, I was just like, wow, I have never heard anybody speak like this before. It was so amazing. And I was just so, wrapped into every word he was saying. And at the end of his talk, he invited us to this event called Secret Knock. And it was, at that time, it was $1,500 to attend. And my life coach disappeared. And I was like, I wonder where she went. Why'd she leave me alone? Like, it's really what I was thinking. Why'd she leave me alone? And she came back. She said, "I'm going to Secret Knock. Are you going?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not paying that kind of money." Like, my money mindset was very low at the time. And she looked at me square in the face and she goes, "You don't understand. You have to be there." Had her hands on my shoulder and everything. Like, "Okay, I'll go. I'll put it on my credit card," and I'm going. And
yeah,
that was it.
How we hold ourselves back. Just as you're saying, like, put yourself out there, ask the question. The worst thing that people can say to you is no.
And is that so bad?
Right.
No.
That's so bad.
No.
And that's what we do. We tend to pull ourselves back.
Yeah.
So when you were writing your books, I'm bringing it back to your book because I know so many people, were you writing one book after another? Did you have time periods in between? How did this just sort of come out to manifesting? And are most of the other books more where you're compiling books with other people, or how is this?
Great questions. Yes. The only book I have written by myself to date is The Year of Fears. All the other books are collaborative books. So whether I'm putting them together or I'm in other people's collaborative books, and so those have been the process. And it's what's happened is, as I get to do this more frequently, or more and more of these stories that I'm telling of myself, it's becoming a lot faster. So I can literally sit down and write a chapter in about an hour and a half. And that's like writing it and proofreading it and everything, because I know my story. I've been telling my story since I was a kid. I know my life. So then I just have to decide, okay, for this book, what's the message in this book? Right. And then I look and I say, throughout my life, what are the stories that can point to this message? And I just look at it. This is how I approach it now. And it's been interesting because I'm not the best writer out there by any means, but I'm writing and I'm sharing my stories. And I am a published author. It's interesting, the different ways of looking at what we're doing in life, and I am making an impact through my stories, and I know that because people are telling me. So we need to put our stories on paper, whether it's with us or with somebody else. It's really your story that is going to make an impact on somebody's life when they pick it. They might be that person that says, I read the first 14 pages of your book and I've already broken through 5 fears. I mean, how amazing is that? Your book can do that.
I love it. I love it. Because so often, like the whole thing well, for me as well, is making an impact in somebody's life. I love it when I do a live, or I write a comment or do a post, and people tell me of, and even clients, about how much I have actually affected their life. And it just resonates right deep into the heart. And that's where, you know that you're making even one person's life that you can change can make a difference.
And that's the key. It can be just one person. That's, it's so interesting. There's someone out there waiting for our story to help them.
And they really are. Yeah, people are Googling all day long.
Right.
So your story is waiting to show up. They're looking for you, but they can't find you because it's not out there. And I wanted to share, so like talking about how did I get into this space? Starting with the writing was one thing, is, being in somebody else's book, then writing my own book. And then I started doing the collaboration books. I was just doing this for fun. This wasn't my business at all. It never even entered my mind that I might do book publishing, because again, I'd said my whole life, I'm not a writer. I'm not a reader. I'm not a writer. So after I did the first book, Momentum, I thought, that was so much fun. I'm going to do it again. And so I decided to put together 2 more books. One was called The Fearless Entrepreneurs, and the other one, Invisible No More, Invincible Forevermore.
Ooh.
That one, I always get that. I always get that reaction. So I'm putting these together. I'm bringing together authors, to share their story, their short stories. Yeah. And then it got to the point that I was like, you know what, just publish that. Because I was kind of dragging my feet publishing it, because I had some fears that were showing up. And I said, just publish them. And I went ahead and published them 8 days apart. They both hit #1 international best-selling status in under 8 hours.
Whoa.
That was that moment that I said, this is it. Oh my God, I love this. This is so much fun. I know what I'm doing and I am damn good at it. This is what I'm going to do.
I love
publishing. A huge statement. That's such a huge statement.
It was. Oh my gosh. And it was that right there, that epiphany, that realization that had me also say, I'm going to dump everything else I'm doing. I had been in business for 7 years, unsuccessful financially. And I just dumped everything else. I was running a women's mastermind, and I called them all up and I said, Monday's our last session. I'm going to refund you any money I owe you, because I knew that I needed to dive in. Yeah. And check this out. The next day that I made that decision, I got a call from somebody who said, I'm writing 2 books. Will you publish them for me? God sent me the messenger. The messenger was, you're on the right path. I'm going to even send you people. How
Wow.
amazing is that? And so
It
it's
really is
wonderful.
And that's what they say is people forget the word action when they're manifesting. Well, you closed down shop. You said you were doing this. This is what I'm doing. And boom, the next day you have clients. You took action. And
we
that's
did, yeah.
really one of the most important steps of manifestation. I've never seen it quite that fast, Lynda, but dang.
Well, you know, nothing happens without action. We have to take action. You can hope, dream, pray, desire, manifest all these different things in your life. But if it's sitting right in front of your face and you don't take any action, nothing's going to happen. You have got to take action if you want to effect change in your life. It's as simple as that.
So tell me something. You had fear that's holding you back. Now we have people that are going to be watching this, and everybody has fear in their point. No matter who it is, I have fear. You know, Nicole has fear. We all do. That's part of life, and that's part of what we are inside of us, because it's that holds us back. That sometimes could actually save our lives too. So you know, it's that mechanism in us that maybe we shouldn't go. But however, there's too many times that fear stops us from doing what we need to be doing. So how do you step fear? What does it for you that pushes you past that fear point, past the comfort zone?
I love this question. This is one of my favorite questions. Like, I always get the one of like, where'd you go when you ran away? Right? Like, that one's a good one too. But this question I'll share with you. First of all, yes, we all have fears. I started thinking that not everybody had fears, and because the circle of people I hang out with now, they're like multimillionaires and billionaires. I'm not there yet. Right. But they're the multimillionaires and billionaires. And so I thought, like, I wonder if they have any fears, you know, so I just went around and started interviewing them. Hey, do you have any fears? If so, what are they? And I asked this one gentleman, he's got an IQ of like 165 or something like that. He's actually, there's a TV show that is named after him, his life, because he's got this high IQ. And I was like, hey, Walter, do you have any fears? And he says, yeah. And I said, what are they? He goes, I have the fear of boredom.
Wow.
I thought that was interesting. That's not what like a common.
I would never have guessed that.
And then a world-renowned bariatric surgeon that, you know, I happen to have friended, you know, recent, you know, this last several years. Do you have any fears? And he said, yeah, the fear of insignificance. Ooh. And I'm like, different fears. Like, we have fears and they range, you know, from the fear of not being able to get food. Yeah. To fear of insignificance, fear of boredom, right? So it's different ranges of our lives, but there's still fears. Our fears are as real can be. There's a saying, fear, false evidence appearing real. Yeah. I'm about 6 months into breaking through one fear every single day. And I was brushing my teeth and I was like, false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. No. My fears do not appear real. They are as real can be to me. And that's what matters. Yeah. And so I was like, wait a minute, when my faith is strong, my fears are weak. So faith erases anxious reactions, the new acronym for fear. Faith erases anxious reactions, because when it's a writer downer. I've got things all over the place, man.
Faith erases, say it one more time.
Faith erases anxious reactions. Because fear is nothing more than some sort of anxiety, and it's a reaction to something. And so when we realize that when our fear is strong, what's happened? Our faith is weak.
Interesting.
When I'm experiencing fear, sometimes I'll say, how strong is my faith right now? I have to check into it. And there's faith in 3 different areas: faith in myself, faith in my circle, my support group, and faith in God, or whatever you believe in, right? And so I need to tap into all 3 of those things in order to just do it because I'm scared. That's another thing, is to do it because you're scared, not in spite of the fear. That to me is a disempowering statement. Yeah. I'm doing this in spite of the fear. To me, that's disempowering. Let's empower ourselves. You know what? I'm going to do this because I'm scared. And why? Because 99.9% of the time, those fears that I broke through 365 days in a row, I got a way better result than I ever expected or ever imagined. a door was open that I didn't even know was closed. And these people that I met during this journey, because I did it, because I was scared, my whole entire life has completely transformed. And, I used to be a miserable person. I used to be the mean girl. I've
Oh,
transformed into somebody completely different because I chose to go down that path.
Is there a fear left? Is there something that you need to do or want to do? Do you have a fear right now of anything?
I have lots of fears. Yeah, they still show up. So they don't disappear. I will state this, though. My fear of judgment, which is, by the way, the number one fear on the planet. The vast majority of us have that fear that stops us. My fear of judgment is gone. That one huge umbrella of a fear is gone. And because of that, like there's a saying that more people are scared of speaking on stage than they are of dying. That's not true. The truth is that more people are scared of the judgment they will receive on stage than they are of dying. So I looked at this and I said, just like Lynda said, I looked in my past and I said, why do I have such a tremendous fear of judgment? I mean, most of us have the fear of judgment, but how strong is it? Mine was so strong that I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't talk to people. I'd go to networking events and I would sit in my car and never go inside because I was so scared of talking to people. And so I looked at it and I said, you know what? There was a lot of judgment in my household. I became judgmental, which was the mean girl, right? Yeah. So the mean girl started at such a young age. And I was so scared of what others thought of me. But really, the fact was that I was so scared of myself, of what I thought of myself. So what I did is I started changing my beliefs about myself, which took a lot of work, by the way. I started changing the beliefs about myself by adopting what other people thought of me, the good things. I had already adopted all the negative things. Now I need to learn how to adopt when somebody would say, wow, you're a trailblazer, you're amazing, you're great, you're fantastic, you're brilliant. When people would say things about me, I would look at it and say, I'm going to believe that from now on. I'm going to start believing because they see something in me I don't see yet. I need to learn what that is. So the name Sunshine, it's not my given name. That name was given to me only about 4 years ago. People started randomly calling me Sunshine. And I looked at it and I said, there must be something. I must be Sunshine. Let me learn how to become Sunshine and believe it.
Yes, yes.
Some great epiphanies, huh? Just
you know what? I remember. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said they're wow moments. When you just your whole life can change on that one statement.
It's constant. Yeah.
And I learned very young in life that when people were coming at you for things, judging you, whatever, it was their problems that they were reflecting onto you, right? Because they were feeling, insecure about themselves. And because I had a hard time as I was growing up because of my height, people looked at me and thought that I always had so much confidence. And I came across very different. It wasn't what was going on inside, but people would come at me with this, like, oh, your life is just so much easier because, look at you. You got it all made, don't you? And I would be sitting back and going, yeah, really, right?
Who are you talking to?
Exactly.
Behind me?
Exactly.
And it was at that time in my life where I started realizing that people were actually having their own insecurities about them. And that was my biggest aha that helped to change my life. And that when people start to realize these things, because we look at the judgment, and I think some of it, I say that, there comes a point in life, and we're all in the same ballpark of age. We just talked about the fact that we've just all of us recreated ourselves in our 50s, but you come to a point in life that you really don't give a shit anymore what people say about you. Like it's really come to that point. And it's, only if you're, and it's not always for everybody, but for a lot of the women, and I put it out there through some of my people that I've coached and that, and it comes back a lot of times where people just say, maybe in my 30s and 40s, I would have cared, but now into my 50s and 60s, I don't give a shit anymore. And, and maybe that is something that age does do for for us.
Can I share a different perspective on that?
Absolutely.
And where this perspective is coming from is because my voice was stifled for 51 years. My very first 51 years of my life, I wouldn't share, I wouldn't speak out, I wouldn't say things. I would never stand up for myself. No way, because confrontation was terrifying to me. And it was through this, working with a life coach and then continuing to work on this journey, is that one thing I realized is that all of our voices do matter. We have opinions that maybe I don't agree with them, and that's okay, but our voices do matter. So what I say instead of that it doesn't matter, I say it does matter to me, because your voice does matter. However, it's what I do with the words. So I just no longer allow what negative things people say to me. I no longer allow those to penetrate and to adversely affect my life, but I do want to hear what people have to say, because I had somebody critique me, in person. And I remember it was like, I said, from this point forward, I will be open to all criticism. Oh my gosh, was I tested on that big time? This woman pulled me aside and told me, she said, I don't know that I could trust you with my money, because it was because of the way I was dressed, at this particular event. And I looked at it and I said, thank you so much for sharing that with me, because it gave me a different perspective. I got to, whether I believe, whether I change or not is up to me, but I got to hear a different perspective. And it helped me to open up my thoughts and say, you know what, maybe this is something I need to look at. So, I just wanted to share that perspective on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Great way to look at it too,
It shifted the way I show up.
Learning process for yourself too, So.
And the fact of you were stifled, it was because of how you were growing up, what was happening in your household that held you back, that sort of put that muffle onto you.
Yeah, that muzzle.
Yeah. No, and I get that. I didn't have that. I had a different outlook through my life, because I was more of the protector of my family. I had to be the one who was always speaking out for others. I have brothers with special needs, so I was always their savior. So I was always speaking out, and that was just part of who I needed to be in my life. So it really is what happens in your life when you're a child that comes back later, that where sometimes you have to learn the other way around too, and it's okay.
Yeah. And I have a question for you, Glenda, then, since you were the person who did, stand up, speak out, and, and you were the voice for people. And so have you ever experienced times where people thought you, like you mentioned, having it all together, people see that. And have you ever experienced times where somebody said something to you that hurt you, either hurt you mentally at all? Like people said something that was kind of like a dig, and you took that
Big time. Huge. I remember I was, one time I was going through a divorce, very nasty divorce. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. And I left, I decided, because my family that I was married to were huge narcissists, and were not good people. And, I was a people pleaser at that point. Being home 8 years, lost all my confidence, all the rest of it. I left because I felt that I was lying to myself and to my children. And I had no money. They took all the money away, and they emptied the bank accounts, and I had nothing. And I remember I was always very active in my kids' school. And I remember one day my phone was cut off, and I couldn't reach a babysitter that I had, because I was working at doing something at school. And I went into total bizarro. Like I just flipped out. And somebody laughed at me and said, you know what? You have so much money. You don't know probably what to do with it. I didn't have a dime to my name. I went through a time where I didn't have money to buy food for my children. That's how bad it was. And I was so hurt and taken back, and thought to myself, is that what these people think of me? And so totally, I've been on all sides of the coin, and it hurt me, because I gave so much to others during that time as well. And it was a low blow, and I'll never forget that moment as long as I live because of that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And the reason I ask that is because oftentimes, because our perception of people is whatever, like from our own experiences, right? I'll walk into a room, I'll see somebody, and I immediately place a judgment on them, in good light, bad light, whatever, because we're human beings, we place judgment. And my sister, who recently passed away, one day I said something to her. And she's always been the strong individual. She's always got everybody's back. She's very caring, giving, and all the things, kind of like what you're mentioning there of yourself. And I said something to her. And about 5 minutes later, this tear started just kind of falling out of her eye. And I looked at her and I didn't ask her what was wrong because I didn't want to have a confrontation. Right? And so she said, "What you said really hurt me."
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that was the moment that I realized that even people that are strong, like we see them as strong, they're still human beings. They still have emotions. They still can get hurt. And so it really, really put me into check that I need to be mindful of how I speak to people. Am I always spot on? No, but I'm working on it.
But who is? But I think
Yeah.
when you lead with, like for me, life has taught me that when you lead with an open heart, and you have compassion in your heart and your soul, because I have seen some really horrible meanness through my life because of my family, and that's why I'm a protector. It's just been who my life has been meant for. That's part of my who I am and what I do.
Mhm.
Till today, because my brothers, God bless them, both are alive, and I still am their protector and savior in so many ways. And so we have to have an understanding when we look at people, because as I said, people always judged me, and I've always been judged, even when I was with my family, judged in a very different way at that point, because years ago the world was not like it is today. And
Mm-mm.
it was a very, very sad, mean world in those days. And I saw that as a child looking out, of seeing that meanness and hardness. So I look at it very differently today, but I look at it because I understand what even families go through in our world, even when especially when they have children who have difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So, well, I told you at the beginning, I'm the bad news bear, and I have to say that I could talk with you for another hour or two or three.
Yeah, definitely.
This went so fast.
Too
This
fast.
went so fast.
I can't believe it's almost an hour. It's like, oh my God.
I know. And I really want to bring you back, and because I really want to really delve into, and I hope you will come back and share with us, but I really would like to get in on really sitting down and how you write a book, because I know so many people that keep talking about that, and I've heard comments, and I know that people would like to have some type of an outline, or of how to do that. And let's put it out there now. What is the best way for people to be contacting you?
They can go to actiontakerspublishing.com, actiontakerspublishing.com. That's the best way to reach me. And Lynda Sunshine, Lynda with a Y, Lynda Sunshine West. I'm on all the socials. I'm over on TikTok, but I'm not doing anything over there. So I'm not really on all the socials, but I'm on all the socials. So you can just find me as Lynda Sunshine West. And I'm on Clubhouse as well. I love Clubhouse. It's one of my favorite places.
Yeah. It's really a great app. And what little golden nugget can you share with us today?
My favorite golden nugget to share is to do it because you're scared. Don't let your fear stop you from living your life. You only get one chance at this. So when you get to the end of it, make sure you don't have any regrets. Go out there and do it because you're scared.
Beautiful. Such an important message out there. And Nicole, what message are you or want to share with us today?
Well, I think this show has been amazing today, and it helps everybody to understand that there's so much inside of us. There's so much to share, and at times we've been suppressed, we've been pushed down, and I'm speaking about the three of us. Not everybody goes through that. Been told, we're dumb, we're stupid, we can't do this. And I think each and every one of us rose above this. And we didn't have to prove to anybody but ourselves. And I became the most important person that I needed to prove myself to. And I had never even had that concept before. And I love hearing, Lynda, your stories, Lynda, your stories. I mean, you guys are both inspirations to me. And there's, when you were talking about fear, Lynda, there's still so many things I'm really like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. And then I think, well, why can't you? Why can't you? Everyone might not like it, but that's okay. How do you feel about it? So I want everybody to take with them today this story that at any age, at any time, at any given moment, change is available and at times required. And I'm grateful to have both of you here today to help me realize the potential that we all have.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both for such an incredible, really jaw-breaking time this last hour has been. You have given so many incredible messages to everybody out there. Please, there's so much here. Share this to other people who need to hear this, whether they're writing a book or not. The fact is we all hold ourselves back. And I know I have done it through many times throughout my life. And I know even still till today, there's times where we stop and we don't allow ourselves to move forward because we second guess ourselves for so many other reasons. So let this be the beginning of it, of saying step forward and step into the fire, because you know what? It's really not that hot. And with that, I say thank you so much for joining us today. And I look forward to you coming on another time and we'll do more.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you, everybody. Bye for now.